Hello again. I am Reni Sentana-Ries, coming to you with my fourth video in my own voice. Today is March 20th, 2019, and I want to elaborate on two issues, and that is the end of this world, and also read out to you an article I wrote in 2011 on the circumstances around which the ice caps were formed. Generally, there is much confusion on how this world will actually end. Yet, geologically, we should not be surprised that it will be in the likeness of what has already happened several times to civilizations of the past. And archaeologists tell us from the strata in the Earth's crust. Therefore, we conclude it will be a violent, catastrophic event to which we really cannot relate, simply because we do not understand the mechanism whereby catastrophes of such magnitude could be generated. The closest picture to the reality of such an event is the description of the flood of Noah in the Bible. However, we have been given no understanding on how it was produced. But let me make this one clear. The end of this world is coming to us as an environmental, cataclysmic event lying in our future. And this I say with certainty, for there are people which still believe that should we in large numbers become reformed into good people who abide by the set of rules of the universe, then by such a turning around from evil, we can prevent this calamity to happen. Not so. The end of this age is coming to all, regardless of the mindset of the people. However, in what frame of mind we will face this event, and with how much or little of knowledge we have by that time acquired about it and been able to prepare ourselves for it, will make a difference. During the last 24 years, Uthrania and I have indicated in our writings that an opportunity for evacuating this planet will come, and nobody should think it to be physically impossible that over 7 billion people could participate in such an event, and that is simply a fact. The skies over this planet will darken from all the galactic ships offering people to become evacuated, and at that time no distinction will be made between good and bad or evil people. The offer will extend to all. What will, however, be making a difference is our reaction to such an event. We can run away in fright and fear from the ships and be left behind, or we remember that the Sentana-Ries have stated that an evacuation is for all. There will be certain death for those who stay behind, but an opportunity for those to become relocated to another planet conducive to their mindset without having their current life stream terminated. The crust of this planet will be destroyed at the end of this world. From a more elevated viewpoint, it will be a rejuvenation of Angorias, which is this planet's name, and when after perhaps long period of time it will become reseeded with people worthy for lives under the order of a paradise. And that is essentially the reason why I have stressed in all my many writings that in order for society to be redeemed worthy of inheriting a paradise, it must understand its duties and obligations and conduct itself with an attitude of complete unselfishness. Now, the Ice Age and other natural catastrophes explained. Embedded in polar ice lie mysteries few scientists have logical explanations for. The 10,000-foot ice layer cannot have come from accumulating snowfall over many years. We must therefore look to find a model with logical criteria which will give us satisfactory explanations for this existence. I'm now giving an introduction by myself, Reni Sentana-Ries, followed also an introduction by Lord Senanda-Ries Jemanuel, and his introduction was scribed by Uthrania. This happened on October 16, 2012. I say, the origin of our polar ice caps as well as the massive amounts of ocean waters on this planet are only understood by few. Yet when we have discovered a working model for explaining the events of, for instance, our Ice Age, and compare that model with evidence on the ground, then we can be quite sure of having arrived at the correct mechanism of how the Ice Age came to be and why we have so much of Earth's surface water. In the article which follows, Lord Senanda-Ries Jemanuel and Reni Sentana-Ries attempt to shed some light on these, to many people, rather perplexing questions. Lord Senanda says, on September 24, 2011, Dear ones, one and all, this next subtitle heading will cautiously deal with the ramification of a riddle so well known to all men, and that is, of course, just how did the liquid in the sea get into the seas? For this we wish to enter our brother Reni's summary, which, with our help, is now quite correct. The Ice Age helped, to be sure, with the melting of the polar and southern regions. But there is an even greater catastrophe than the flood of Noah. Rather watch when the flood disappeared and then resurfaced again at an injunction with Mars, when our brethren and sisterhood of that green planet were somewhat displaced by lack of good quality drinking water as well. Not only did the seas escape off the surface foundation of Mars, but Jupiter was at large a relative of the same catastrophe when it neared the lunar sphere you all call the moon, just too close to home. And if you think for a moment the moon cannot move, then think again, dear scientists of Earth, Angorias, as we call it. Sila dear, please place in the commentary by our brother and take to yourselves another quite lengthy break. Thank you. Sananda out for the 24th of September, your Earth year of 2004. Now, you will see what we mean later, little dove of mine. Please place in time signature now, and it was 3:08 p.m. at that time. Now we're coming to my own article, which I called An Ice Age Analysis. The geologically more recent time period of Earth has seen at one time no direct sunlight because of a massive amount of water vapor surrounded the atmosphere. Such condition was conducive to tremendous animal and plant life. The temperatures on the surface differed very little between equatorial and polar regions, and so even the regions which are now under a heavy layer of ice were filled with rich vegetation and abundant animal life. Some animals grew very large in size, for they seem to have had no problem finding enough food to feed their large bodies with. I disagree with some who wish to place the Ice Age as far back into Earth's history as millions of years, and others that contend this age slowly developed over a large period of time. However, none of this makes sense, for the evidence on the ground tells us a different story. When Earth was a tropical container of plant and animal life, there were, of course, also humans here to oversee the activity. The fact that they had come from other star systems gives credence to the fact that these visitors had actually begun the abundant life forms by planting and releasing them here from other planets. I believe this was the time when the pyramids were built, who are now dysfunctional remnants. That was also the time when the massive pyramidal structures and edifices of Mars and Moon were constructed. That is to say, by the same kind of people. So then, why do we speak of a sudden extinction of dinosaurs if there had not been a sudden calamity that befell them all? The Ice Age did not appear, as some would say, over a large period of time, for these advocates cannot give us a satisfactory answer as to why we find so many large elephants and bison solidly frozen in ice with no trace of decay even unto the innermost organs of their bodies. So the theory of a gradual overfreezing of polar regions holds no water. Even human remains were found frozen in like manner alongside with those of animals. The atmosphere contained massive amounts of water vapor. This water vapor would create a constant dew on the surface to provide an ideal condition for a lush vegetation. Today this protective water vapor is gone, and what we have is a world mostly scorched by the blazing sun. The disappearance of uniform natural irrigation combined with the blazing sun began to destroy vegetation, if it had not been destroyed beforehand by oceanic tidal waves sloshing over the continents. But that is another story which I do not wish to go into at this time. The hitherto unanswered question still remains: by what mechanism became the once humid atmosphere suddenly so arid that for the first time ever in Earth's history direct sunlight could break through and strike the earth with its harsh rays? Space is filled with massive amounts of ice asteroids. Sometimes it happens that any of them come too close to Earth's gravitational field, where, depending on their size, they break up into finely ionized particles. These ice particles don't just sit there suspended in Earth's gravitational field, but due to their ionization, travel along the lines of Earth's geomagnetic field like iron shavings around a magnet. When that happens, all ice particles will find their way to Earth, most heavily concentrated where the geomagnetic forces are greatest, namely at the geomagnetic polar regions of this planet. Floating ice masses in outer space contain a temperature of absolute zero. Therefore, these precipitating ice particles had caused massive condensation in equatorial regions, which manifested in horrendous, steady downpours of rainfall. Since space ice penetration of Earth's atmospheric layer was heaviest near the polar regions, any life form below became quick frozen as the near absolute zero temperature ice solidified it with instant deadliness. Today there is no mechanism around in which live woolly mammal of the size of large elephants can be quick frozen without a sign of putrefaction observable in their innermost intestines. The instant onrush of absolute zero temperature alone can produce such a result. After all the ice from outer space had precipitated around the polar regions, they were then covered in ice to over 10,000 feet in thickness. I believe the process from the first assault of ice on Earth's atmosphere to the completion of the ice layer polar regions and the breakthrough of direct sunlight on Earth could not have taken more than 2 weeks, 3 at the most. That's the end of my article, but I added a word on catastrophic planetary gravitational interactions, which I inserted on September 24, 2011, to this writing. I say, having at length described the mechanism whereby Earth can become inundated with massive amounts of ice from outer space through breaking up ice asteroids, which then also adds to filling the ocean water levels, there still exists another mechanism of Earth capturing through its gravitational field large ice/water masses. And that is by means of interplanetary conjunctional interaction, which either can be periodical as the 2-to-1 orbital ratio between Earth and Mars, or can consist of a singular event between Earth and some other large terrestrial object containing water. The arid conditions on Mars, which at one time experienced a rhythmic 2-to-1 period of conjunctions with planet Earth, where conjunctions are catastrophic gravitational interactions between two planets, indicate to us the consequences of Mars's encounter with a planet of greater gravitational force, thus capturing not only part of the smaller planet's atmosphere, but also water masses, whether from the atmosphere or those of its oceans. Where planetary interactions between two substantially larger bodies and a smaller one are too severe, in other words, they come too close to each other, the smaller one then disintegrate and eventually forms an asteroid belt. Okay, that's the end of my first article. I'm going to give you another one later on showing the explanation of how the mountain ranges on planet Earth were formed. That is all for now. My name is Reni Sentana-Ries. I like to give you my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Sentana-Ries, one word without a dash, Sentanaries. That's all. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good day, and I wish you the best. Bye-bye.